Isoko. Ahí, dale isoko, ahí, Dios. Anestesia.
Warm welcome if you're just joining us online. We will be kicking off this workshop on the topic of vaccine confidence with our guest Heidi Larsen and with members of the COVID-19 Peer Hub. So members of the Peer Hub are immunization professionals who've been working for 6 months now, specifically on COVID response, how to keep immunization services going, and more recently have been developing case studies of vaccine hesitancy. So members of the Peer Hub have been invited to present their case studies, and Professor Heidi Larsen will share with us the work that the Vaccine Confidence Project at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine is doing to help the global partners, the global community better understand what is happening with vaccine confidence, hesitancy, demand promotion, community engagement, and also what we can expect, what is going on, what is changing in terms of the attitudes in countries across a population. How are they perceiving vaccines, and what does that mean for immunization professionals? That's what we're hoping to hear and learn with Heidi today. So stay with us. Let's check the counter. We have just 2 minutes before we get started. In the room with me are a number of members of the COVID-19 Peer Hub. The ones we've invited, the ones who have made exceptional ongoing effort to contribute to the Peer Hub, to share their experience. That is who is in the room with us today, and we welcome, if you're watching online, of course, you're welcome to join us. Very good to see you, and we have a minute and a half to go. We can see that, yes, so our dear Dr. Tanushree Mandal, this is greetings all. She's from West Bengal, India, and I must say, in the last, since joining the Peer Hub, she has really not only applied herself, but really been supportive of others working as an accompanist. And good morning to Abu Bakar Mohammed from Nigeria. Welcome to you as well. You're watching on YouTube, and we are, in fact, on all the platforms. So we are on, all right, so we're gonna go live in 45 seconds. Thank you for joining us. Warm welcome to you from Geneva, Switzerland. I am Reda Sadki from the Geneva Learning Foundation, and we're here, as you can see, for a workshop with Professor Heidi Larsen and we're going to be discussing vaccine confidence. With me in the room are a large number of members of the Peer Hub. So before we get started, we're going to remind and recall what exactly we have been doing around vaccine hesitancy in the COVID-19 Peer Hub. So we initially wanted to invited immunization professionals from countries to share experience as part of the COVID-19 Peer Hub activities. And on the 9th of November, more than a large number, hundreds of immunization professionals, you can see the schedule here, embarked in developing a case study. And you can see here, let me see, the case study really asked the following question. Can you think of a time when you helped an individual or group overcome their initial reluctance, hesitancy, or fear about vaccination? Heidi Larson was our guest on the already on the 23rd of November, and we're super pleased to welcome her back. I see her in the room. I'm just going to move her into as a co-host, and so we can hear and properly welcome her. Heidi, warm welcome to you.
Good morning.
All right. Would it be possible, could I ask you to turn on your webcam? Is that possible?
Oh, sure. Sorry, I thought it was on. Let's see. Sorry, I wasn't sure if I had to go to LinkedIn or Facebook, but then I realized it was Zoom. So I've been jumping platforms.
Sure. Thank you for making the jump to the right platform. Yeah,
yes.
We're actually, and maybe this is maybe the right time to just explain this briefly. You may be watching us on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Twitter, or on Facebook. We're live streaming across all these platforms. So watch us wherever you're most comfortable. We're looking at your comments, and actually, I'm going to mark a pause just to acknowledge here. Some of the comments, some of the greetings we've got coming in. So, Beyanwu Peters from Liberia, welcome. I would say welcome back, Beyan. I know you were with us on yesterday's event, and we have a busy schedule this week. Dr. Wajid from London, welcome to you as well. Samuel, also from Liberia. Yusuf Kabir Bunawa, who says it's very important to take some people to getting the work like and others we do. Okay, I'm not sure I understood that, Yusuf, but you're welcome to follow along. Iyad Abdelgadir says, greetings and thank you for this interesting topic, how to boost confidence. What is the psychology of hesitancy? And then Dr. Tanushree Mandal says, will be great to hear from Heidi. Before we get started, Heidi, could I ask you, what did you retain? What did you take away from the event that you contributed to on the 23rd of November? What's your recollection of that? Was there anything interesting or surprising that you heard on that day?
I have to say, so much has changed since then.
Okay.
I think the thing that I find the most encouraging is just the innovation going on at a country level, and just the extraordinary work and efforts that are happening. I think, COVID has pushed us to look at things in different ways. And I think despite all the stresses and problems that we've faced in some ways, I think we are going to be bringing into the broader field of vaccination new innovations and new creative ways to address pretty difficult situations.
Great. So we have Bella Dora was one of the first to join the room, and so we've asked Bella to present her case study. So the product of 4 weeks of work. I'm going to put some questions up on the screen, even though the actual rubric, so the guidance for which Bella used to develop her case study had more questions than what you're seeing here. But just to give you an indication, Bella, good morning to you. Can you remind us where you work, where you are connecting from?
Hello Reda, hello Heidi. I'm calling from Indonesia. I'm working with international NGO right now, but I was involved in vaccine introduction in Indonesia in 2018. So at the time, the new vaccine introduced was measles and rubella. The activity was held in 2 phases, one in 2017 and the second phase was in 2018. I joined in the second phase. At the time, I was responsible for monitoring the vaccine introduction program in 3 districts in South Kalimantan, Indonesia. And at the time, the challenge was about vaccine safety, because it's a new vaccine and not many people or parents were familiar with rubella disease, and they haven't seen many children affected by the rubella, so that's why I think the concern, the main concern was about the safety and about the adverse reaction from the vaccine. So uh, the event I came through was when I was visiting elementary school with immunization officer. Uh, uh, Before that, the immunization officer said to me that she received a threat from parents who refused to give their children vaccine, measles and rubella vaccine, because the parent heard from the neighbor that there are there were children who had to hospitalize because of the measles and rubella vaccine. So at the time, she said to me that she afraid of conducting a meeting with the parents again because of the threat she received before. So I went with her to this particular elementary school, and I already asked the school to arrange a meeting with the parents and the school principal. And at the time we have a Q&A session after the immunization officer explained about what is the vaccine and how it will benefit the children. And during the Q&A session, I concluded that the major concern was about the vaccine safety, and the main issue they talked to us was about they heard news spreaded from the social media that during the phase 1 of the vaccine introduction in 2017, there were 1,000 children died due to the vaccine. So at the time, after I observed the condition of the parents, I saw that many parents bring a smartphone with them. So I asked them to connect to the internet and open Google, and then I helped them typing a keywords like a measles rubella vaccination program in 2017. And at the time, I asked them to find whether there was news spreaded in the internet about the death of 1,000 children in 2017 due to the measles rubella vaccine. And one of the parents said that she couldn't find that news, and I asked the others whether the others could find the news, and they said they couldn't find the news. So I told to them that so it means that what parents heard is a hoax. And I also explain and show them data I brought from the WHO Indonesia and the Ministry of Health Indonesia about the number of number of children vaccinated in 2017, and the number of children had been vaccinated in 2018 with measles and rubella, and the number of adverse event recorded, and the number of children with adverse event need hospitalized in Indonesia. So at the time, I asked parents to think themselves whether the number of children need hospitalized due to adverse reaction is was more than children that are healthy after given vaccination. So the parents said that and realized that, oh, so the number of adverse reaction is only a little, and it's not too dangerous, and not many cases require hospitalization. So at the time, from the 40 students available in the room, we got around 2,000. We got around 25 students vaccinated, while the others, the other student parents said that they would like to wait for their friends condition after vaccination. So I told the parents who are not allowed the children to get vaccinated to, yes, you can wait and see the children who get vaccinated, and if they are okay, they were okay, you can get vaccination as well right now, or you can go to the health facility soon. That's what I can say. So
Bella,
I think from my reflection was because parents are afraid of and concerned about the safety of the new vaccine, and they were not familiar with what is rubella disease and what the complication of rubella that need parents to aware and get vaccination for their children. Thank you very much.
Bella, thank you very much. So you wrote up this case study, you received peer review feedback from your colleagues, and your case study is one of 750 stories that have been produced in the last 4 weeks by participants of the Peer Hub. Now, you shared a lot of detail, and that's good. For me, it was a bit hard to understand exactly how it turned out. Let's go to Heidi Larsen. Heidi, you have, I imagine, have spent a lot of time collecting and listening and interpreting and making sense of stories around vaccine hesitancy, confidence, demand promotion, community engagement. When you listening to Bella Dora's narrative, what did you hear? What are the questions you would have for her to help make sense of this story, and what can we learn from a story like that?
Well, the first thing I would say was I thought, thank you, Bella. I think you were very creative, innovative, and I think the most important takeaway from Bella's story is that she involved people. It wasn't just giving them a message. She brought them to sit down and do the Google search, not to do it and hand them the results. So by participating and doing that themselves, and similarly, to be doing testimony and following the ones who did get vaccinated, I think the most important part of Bella's story is the way that she involved people in the decision making and in getting the alternative information themselves. Because one of the drivers we see that's really important and we're not doing enough of is that kind of mutual engagement to make these, they need to come to that conclusion themselves. And that was actually a really excellent way to do it. My only concern would be that they would then take Google as gospel truth. And then the next time they go to Google to search something, they could also find some pretty negative and fake news. So I think we should be a little careful. While I think you did an excellent approach, I do think we should remind people, even when they go to Google, they also may find some pieces of misinformation. So I think the other point is make sure that you get additional source of information from trusted sources. And the vaccine safety net that's hosted by WHO, but is actually a broader network of trusted websites and whatever, is one example of a place for people to go.
Yes, thank you very much, Heidi. I will note that.
Thank you, Heidi and Bella. Let's have a round of applause before we go any further. And again, the whole point of this exercise in the COVID-19 Peer Hub was indeed to hear the voices, to really listen to the voices of people from countries and how immunization staff, in fact, are dealing with hesitancy every day, figuring out, having to problem solve on the spot, figure out what to do and how to do it. And this is what we're listening to today. We do also want to speak with Heidi. The Vaccine Confidence Project at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine is leading this global research to better understand what is happening with population attitudes towards vaccines. And we have here a comment from LinkedIn from Mohammed Hamayoun. So he wants to know, what are the basic steps to address the situation with hesitancy, regardless of the reason? So we'd all like a sort of recipe book, a cookbook. Here's what, do this, and you will mitigate, prevent vaccine hesitancy. What would be your answer, Heidi Larsen? What is the complexity involved? Why isn't there like a one-size-fits-all solution to the vaccine hesitancy problem? And then with respect to the research that is being carried out by the Vaccine Confidence Project, what is changing? What are you seeing in terms of attitudes and behaviors in the countries that you're researching that could be of interest to immunization professionals who are dealing with this on the ground every day?
Thanks very much. Well, I think we don't have one size fits all because we are not one size fits all as populations. Think of it like clothing. There are many different sizes. People have many different tastes and colors, and it's one of the joys of our communities is to have diversity, but when it comes to people's sentiments, feelings, anxieties, that's very different. It's very different at an individual level. It's different at a community level. Different communities have had different histories that are making them sometimes more hesitant. In India, there were places that had experiences of forced sterilization. So sometimes these anxieties about sterilization and rumors come from they're not crazy. They're reasonable. There's, experiences with certain minority communities that have histories of either abuse or not getting the access to main services. So there are sometimes deep-seated, genuine reasons for their hesitancy, and we should have some empathy and respect that. But at the same time, try to work with them to come to a story where they actually get to move on to some contemporary positive stories. What was the second part? I remember the one size fits all, but
the global. What is the Vaccine Confidence Project learning about what is changing with respect to attitudes in the populations that you're studying, attitudes and behaviors about vaccines? Keeping in mind that our audience here, the people in the room here, are immunization professionals working at national and subnational levels in many different countries. What would be the three sort of key insights about what is changing that could actually be helpful to them in the work that they do every day in terms of what to expect from the from the families that they serve in where they work?
So this is experiences presumably with non-COVID vaccine that could be relevant to COVID?
Yes.
Okay. I think I just my previous call was presenting results to Africa CDC. We've just completed a 15-country study at a very local level to understand what were the confidence levels, the willingness to take a vaccine, and the kind of things so the first thing I would say that we've really learned, and the whole point of the Vaccine Confidence Project, which I founded 10 years ago, was because the previous 10 years I had been working on vaccines. I worked with UNICEF, leading their strategy and communications for the introduction of new vaccines, launched Gavi in 2000 and chaired the advocacy task force for Gavi. And so I saw around the world these issues emerging, and this was 20 years ago, because we launched Gavi in 2000, actually January 2001, I think it was. But since then, when I saw these new vaccines being introduced around the world, we hit a wall with a number of ones. And my training is in anthropology, and I would go out and the head of UNICEF would say, go out and understand what their issues are and come back to us. So I got a real window on all the different reasons that people had why they were hesitating. And I felt like we just didn't have enough time in our day job of trying to push these vaccines out to really understand. So I set up the Vaccine Confidence Project. Left UNICEF, set up the Vaccine Confidence Project strictly to be listening to publics around the world, gathering evidence, mapping what are the different issues, developing a confidence index that we run over time to see changes in population as a resource to people like yourself on the front line to get some context and issues. So what we're doing with Africa CDC is in these 15 countries, for instance, trying to map what are the current population sentiments around vaccines, what are the reasons, and we found that some of them are misinformation, but actually confidence and safety is the bigger issue. And that within that, some of the same dominant questions we were hearing around Ebola are coming up. Well, we're not sure that COVID is actually real. Should we trust the vaccine, or who's providing it? Is it going to work? A number of different issues. I haven't seen anyone get sick enough to really, that could have been something else. And then some of them thought the vaccine was made too fast. Some of these perceptions are actually, we're hearing in Europe and in US, in Australia, in other countries. So it's not uniquely an African thing. So I think that understanding the sentiments of the publics you're going into are going to be absolutely crucial. And who is their trusted advisors. We also do mapping of which social media platforms are the most dominant ones. Because in some countries, there's a lot of people who use Facebook. In other countries, there's almost none. They rely on WhatsApp or Twitter or VK, the Russian-speaking one, or Weibo or WeChat, or there's a multitude of newer platforms out there too. So we try to understand where do people get their information and make sure that this communication and engagement is very much based on the reality on the ground. And the next thing is, and you've probably heard this from other speakers during the week, is the absolute importance of co-creating locally with the particular communities you're working in. And I think right now, in terms of the COVID vaccine, which is not, it's about to be, I believe in Indonesia, they'll be rolling out. We're at baby steps. We're at the very beginning. So you have time to understand, the audience and start to get more awareness out there, because you don't want to wait till the day that the vaccine arrives. You want to know what the questions are, where the issues are, who has the hesitancy. So I think that kind of co-creation, find out who actually is enthusiastic about these vaccines in the communities that might be hesitant, and let them be your local leader. But get a network of your locally, mobilizers, as it were, partners who are willing and want to be the one to motivate their peers, and make sure they have the right information. Make sure that you're constantly engaging them, and already be building the relationship with the media, which I'm sure you have in all your countries, depending where you are. But don't wait for a crisis, as it were, and listen for any issues. This is brand new virus. These are brand new vaccines. Rumors are really important. They're not just bad. Rumors are a valuable source of information. Think of it that way.
Great. Thank you so much, Heidi. So we are now at the 25-minute mark. We're going to turn to Ibrahim Mohammed. Ibrahim, would you like to unmute? And I know you are having connection issues, so I'm hoping you will be able to hear your case study and ask Heidi Larson for feedback and insights after having listened to you. Ibrahim, are you there? Are you able to speak to me, please? Yes.
Hello?
Yes. Ibrahim, the floor is yours. Would you like me, so just as a reminder, these are the questions we really want, and please be synthetic and summarize to get to the point of what was the incident that happened, what was your role, what actions did you consider, if you had the conversation, what were the words that you used when speaking to the vaccine hesitant individual or group, how did it turn out, who or what helped you, was there anything that surprised you? These are some of the questions I know you put into your written case study. Now we're looking forward to hearing it and as well as Heidi Larsson's feedback. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody. My name is Mohamed Ibrahim. I work as a surveillance officer in the Ghana Health Service, Upper East region of Ghana. Yeah, by introduction, I have been involved in vaccine introduction. However, that wasn't the time I encountered the vaccine hesitancy. So, of course, I would like to go to the period at which I encountered vaccine hesitancy. And this took place not in the era of COVID-19, but somewhere 2005 in the sub-district I was posted to. So in my sub-district, when I tried to take the profile, I came across a family of about 6 houses who actually were led by their family head, extended family head, who was a traditional herbalist. And before the other family members could take any decision, they needed to consult him. So he took the decision that their children wouldn't be vaccinated. So I initially tried to approach him, but when I didn't succeed, I have to go back and plan. So I came back with a community health volunteer to meet the head. And the reason for their hesitancy was that their children do not come out of their houses until the children are able to walk out by themselves. And so if you needed to actually have the children vaccinated, then you either have to get them inside their houses or they forfeit the vaccine. So what I realized was that officers actually at the time weren't able to engage this family enough. So I realized inadequate community engagement was actually the issue. So I went back, remobilized with my team, and then the action we planned to take was to meet him with the other family members, listen to them exactly what their belief was, and then from there, we'll be able to offer our suggestions. So my key role was to actually lead the team with the community health volunteer and other few health staff, of course, vaccinators, to meet the family. And we did that with them. So when we met, they asked what our vaccines were about. And I took the time to, first of all, have to find out from them exactly what the issue was. And they repeated the same belief. We have a way which we could use to get the children vaccinated. They didn't have a problem. But their main issue was that they wouldn't want the children to be brought out until the children can come out by themselves.
What? I can't. Didn't want their children to be what?
Hello? Hello?
Yes, Ibrahim. Heidi's question is, what was it that they did not want for their children? Can you clarify, please? Ouais.
Since they have their herbal medicine, that is what they use for the children, until the child himself or herself is able to walk and then come out of the house. Even if the mothers are not allowed to travel far. Wherever they are going, they leave the children behind and then go out. Even if it's market, they go out and come back to enter and meet the children until the child is able to walk and then walk out of the gate by themselves. So that was the belief they had.
Okay. So it was an access issue, actually.
Can I continue?
Yes, please. So tell us, how did it turn out? Who or what helped you? Was there anything that surprised you?
All right. So the community health volunteer actually play a key role to help in that, because at the time I couldn't even speak the language well. He has to interpret the message I wanted to put across. So exactly what we did was we listened to them after they presented to us, and I told them that what the vaccines actually were just to add additional protection. It wasn't to be used against their traditional medicine. And so it's about additional processing for children. And then we showed them posters of poliomyelitis, measles, diphtheria, and some few other diseases. So we explained to them that if the children do not take the vaccine, their medicine alone wouldn't be able to protect the children from getting those various diseases. So we realized that they actually were acting on ignorance. But all the same, they still stood firm that if we wanted to get the children, then we need to enter their houses. So we agreed that no problem. If that was their main reason, then we will always enter the houses to get the children vaccinated. And that was accepted. So our key messages, we told them children vaccine are beneficial to our children. Vaccine prevent, and we listed the diseases to them, which they were mentioned locally to them, and they understood the concept. So what I would want to say is that in dealing with community members, the key lesson is everybody wants to be appreciated. When you appreciate their point of view, then they allow you to also give them what you are intended to, what you really want to put across. So what surprised me was that initially the rumor I heard was the fact that they don't just listen, or they don't allow anybody to discuss with them or talk to them about vaccines. But I realized that was not exactly the issue. The issue was, the approach was not so good for them. Maybe they are just there, and then you come and want their children to be vaccinated. Why do you want to vaccinate them? So that information actually didn't get down well with them. But after we had that discussion with them involving the other family members, at the end of the day, they accepted that, yes, we could be entering their houses to vaccinate the children. So as health workers, we realized that was a good start. And so we started with that. And I worked in the place from 2005 up to 2009. And so later on, we agreed that the detail about the belief is the fact that the children wouldn't pass through the main gate, but whichever means we could use to get the children out, because I needed to also add group monitoring. So we agreed that we could be passing the children over the short walls of their houses. And then, so anytime we have an outreach, we go. Health workers will stand behind the house. The mothers will pass the children over the wall. We pick them, go, and then the mothers will pass through the main gate to meet us at the outreach point. We'll vaccinate and weigh them. Then when we finish, the mothers will enter, will pass the children through, over the walls as well, for them to take the children inside. Then, before 2008, yes, that whole belief, I would say, was dissolved, because they finally understood that the children working out, or that belief, they couldn't substantiate the impact of that kind of belief. And so finally, we had it, so easy that, or finally resolved in that, it was normal for them to now come anytime, even to the health facility, to take vaccinations. Thank you. Over.
Thank you, Ibrahim Mohammed from Ghana. Over to you, Heidi. Is there anything that surprised you in the narrative you just listened to? What would you like? What would be your feedback? Are there any insights that you'd like to share back with Ibrahim and the rest of the group? This is one of more than 700 peer-reviewed case studies that Ibrahim and others in the Peer Hub have been developing in the last 4 weeks. They're actually submitting the final versions tomorrow. Your insights and feedback would be very much appreciated and valued.
That's great. And what I was thinking of when I was listening to you is a similar situation that we had faced with polio in India, in a state of Uttar Pradesh, where people were saying they weren't vaccinated because of rumors of sterilization. But when we finally actually sat down with some of the most resisting communities and talked to them and say, are there any other things that are to go beyond the rumor, to say, are there other things that are concerns you have or issues? And it turned out that actually the real reason that they weren't happy about the polio vaccination was that they said, we don't want men vaccinating our children, and we particularly don't want them coming, men or women, coming from Delhi, which is the capital of the country, to our village to be vaccinating. We want local people, and we prefer local women, so that if anything happens, we know where to find them, we can get their help. So just again, similar to what you were saying, once you hear their concerns, and that becomes more of a logistics issue, an access issue, that it does mean you have to change your strategy a bit, but that's worth it because it also builds trust in the sense that they feel like you heard them and you're addressing their concerns. So by changing to local women in the community, the vaccine rates started to go up. So I really appreciate the story, the summary from Ghana. I think it's a very important one, and I think, Rita, I'm not sure how I would assume that especially given the number of case studies you have, you'll find some themes across them and cluster them in different groups. Is that what you'll be doing? Because I would not be surprised if there are other stories that are also, you think it's about a belief or a particular rumor, but actually turns out to be something that is more tangible to address. And similarly with the first one, the kind of co-involvement, yep. I would think that there'd be some emerging themes across that would be helpful in terms of organizing the archive, as it were, yes. to make it useful.
So for members of the Peer Hub, the work of developing the case studies, producing that knowledge, is complete tomorrow, if they're good at submitting on time for deadlines. And then the work of research is really the next stage. We'll be looking at it through the lens of education, looking at the learning processes involved, but we also need the public health lens and the specific expertise that around the behavior change frameworks and the other aspects that go into properly analyzing vaccine hesitancy. Just to clarify, participants in the Peer Hub have developed a lot of case studies are pre-COVID, and we thought that was okay to prime the pump and get people thinking, what have I been able to do in the past to mitigate, prevent, respond to hesitancy, to promote demand, to engage with the community. And really, this is all about getting ready for what we know awaits us in 2021. So we're at the 41-minute mark now, and I want to turn to Charlotte Mbu. We haven't heard your voice, Charlotte, yet. How are you doing? How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, Reda, and a pleasure to have you with us today, Heidi. Greetings to all the Peer Hub members that are in the Zoom room and those that are watching through our various platforms. Reda?
All right, so Charlotte, I know you have been discussing with participants in the Peer Hub who will be our next presenter to share their case study, to get some feedback and engage in this dialogue with Heidi Larsen.
I'm going to turn towards Cameroon, and I'll be inviting Martha Ngwe to unmute herself and share the story. Reda, Martha wishes that the questions be projected so that she could be able to give an orderly presentation and be as concise as possible.
All right, that's of course much appreciated. Let me just get those, spotlight those. Yes, Martha, a warm welcome to you. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Reda. Hi, everyone. I'm Martha Ngwe from Cameroon. I work with the EPI group, technical group at the sub-national level. So the situation was a case of a community dialogue in order to restore demand for immunization. This was during the COVID-19 pandemic. We are in a setting where we have a socio-political crisis, and it has break out to a war for over 4 years, and we have this population that are constantly displaced. And in one of the activities organized by UNICEF, PIRI, in May, that is after the pandemic hit the country, the first case was detected in March. This PIRI was organized in May in some of the districts that were considered the safe havens for these internally displaced persons. So I happened to be one of the supervisors in one of these districts. And in one of these districts, there is a whole community health area that has over 300,000 inhabitants. And we realized that because the PIRI was organized for 3 days and there was supposed to be social mobilization 3 days prior to this PIRI, but on the day of this, we realized that there was some hesitancy in the field. So we had to engage. The staff of the leading health facilities there, the public health facilities, and also the 6 social mobilizers that were assigned to mobilize this health area. So the specific actions we took was that because we realized that social mobilization was poor, we had to halt the activity. And then we had to invite stakeholders such as the 21 quarter heads that made up that community, some other influential members of the community, some other caregivers like mothers. And then because of the crisis, we have, in quotes, emerging leaders, those of the opposing side, who believe that the government does not have anything to offer them that is good. The main reason for the hesitancy was that because they think these people think that they are being marginalized, they have to cease from the current countries and create a country of theirs. And so they thought that these vaccines have come so that they should just, it has been intoxicated with the COVID vaccine virus. And so they want to use that so that once they are being injected into their children, it can also infect the other members of the community. So we had to we look for a day, we had to postpone that activity to a further date and sat with all those stakeholders I earlier mentioned, and we came to a conclusion, and they realized that it was the same vaccine that they have been having even before the breakout of the war. So even to convince them, we have to call two of our colleagues whose children were eligible to take those vaccines, and we have to vaccinate the children right in front of them. And so this is how it became successful. So we worked with members of the community and also some health personnel from health facilities around that health area. And the surprising thing is that all the 21 quarter healths and mothers and emerging leaders became social mobilizers for that activity. Thank you so much. Over.
Thank you, Marta. Heidi Larson, you've just heard Marta, a summary of Marta Ngoe's case study. Would love to hear now your thoughts and follow-up questions, as well as insights that could be helpful to her and others who've worked on these case studies.
Sure. Thanks very much, Marta. I think the strategy, again, of involving the people that are in the situation, in the solution, as it were, was really great. And I really like the fact that the mothers became the social mobilizers. I think I always say, start with the willing and let the willing lead. And I think you really captured that very well. I don't have many questions because it was pretty clear, but I do think it was a great approach. I think it might need to duplication in different settings, but I think it was a great solution to the extent. Not all mothers. It depends on the cultural setting. In some cases, mothers are more restricted what they can do outside of the home, depending on the cultural setting, because sometimes they're more. The fathers are not so happy about that, but if it's allowed, I think it's fantastic.
Thank you, Heidi Larson and Marta Ngoe from Cameroon, who shared her case study. Charlotte, back to you. I know that, and actually Heidi pointed out that Burema Kabore has had his hand up for a while, who is our next presenter.
All right, so Reda, I just think we are going to, because of his persistence, I think we are going to let Burema to take up the floor now, and then later on we'll go back to my very last presenter for the day.
All right, Burema, over to you. We only have 12 minutes left in this workshop, and we know how busy you are. Burema, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Reda. Thank you, Charlotte. Thank you, Heidi. I'm Burema Kabore. I'm working at national NGO level in Burkina Faso, but I'm a former health facility level in Burkina Faso in a village in the Boucle du Monde region of Burkina Faso. Donc, my case is about a refusal to vaccinate the vaccinate children in the community. It is before the COVID-19 pandemic, and it was about the year 2000, where I was the health facility manager. Okay, and we were about the national immunization day in Burkina Faso, and it was co-organizing in West Africa countries, and every country, every community should have its children vaccinated as well. Okay, and when we start at the third day, we noticed that there is a community who refused to vaccinate the children, and it was reported to us by vaccinators. My role was to investigate the case, to know what is the reason and who are the stakeholders in this situation, and how to follow up to make sure the crisis is over, and to follow up to make sure after the crisis people are getting vaccinated, including in routine immunization. Okay, so when I get the situation where there were many options, we could maybe force people to get vaccinated. We could sensitize them, but we chose to combine sensitization, including involving all stakeholders, and show to the community that if they refuse to vaccinate their children, we will report the situation to our management at district level. Okay. So what I do there, I show them key messages, telling them that polio is it is a great disease who will handicap children for their life. So it is for that reason each country in West Africa was engaged, and I don't understand why their community they get engaged, they refuse to get their children vaccinated. Also, I said that even the prefect were engaged. I was the children, because we were in the same ethnic group, and I used local language to show them why they had to vaccinate the children. So I use many proverbs in local level to encourage them. Okay, what surprised me is that after I noticed that they thought that it was family planning program, because in 2000 there was a program on family planning promotion, and they felt that it was just to force them to adopt family planning. It's why they were organizing the vaccination. And another thing is that if it were our days, I had to involve community-based organization to solve this problem. But in 2000, there was not enough community-based organization except the chief of village and the administrative responsible in the village. That is just a summary of my case study. Thank you, Eddie. Thank you, Reda. Over to you.
Thank you, Borema. I suggest that we only have 7 minutes left, that we go to our last presenter. Charlotte, I believe that is Tanushri.
Yes, Reda, it's Tanushri. And so, Tanushri, if you can go ahead and unmute yourself and in a few minutes share your vaccine hesitancy story.
Thank you, Charlotte. Thank you, Reda, for the support extended. Thank you, Heidi, for being with us. And I just want to start with the saying of Heidi that one size does not fit all. And as she had rightly put up in India, yes, she had worked in Uttar Pradesh. She cited the example. I would like to put the example of my place in West Bengal. Well, at that time in 2011, this is a case of poliomyelitis vaccine. And as we know that the last wild poliovirus vaccine, the last wild poliovirus was detected in West Bengal, and that was in Shahpara village. Now, we were working very close to that village, and that was in the district of Howrah, and that was in Uluberia as well as Metiaburuz. Now, what happened is that this was the Muslim community, and as you know that India is having a 50-50 population of Hindus and Muslims, and there was an isolated event of adverse effect following vaccination, AEFI, in one part of the country, and that actually spread like fire to the other parts of the country. So there were, isolated pockets of resistance in Uttar Pradesh, in Bihar, in West Bengal, So I was working in West Bengal, and the representatives of the partner organizations like WHO, UNICEF, who were working, they actually collaborated with the Ministry of Health as well as Department of Health and Family Welfare, and they pitched in all the public health professionals and medical faculties from all the institutions in order to convert these resistant cases to one of acceptance. Now, what we did is that we went for a brainstorming, and we wanted to see what really happened. We made a SWOT analysis and a PESTLE analysis, and we wanted to, find out ways, one after the other. We had a plan A and plan B. So first of all, where I was put, I went into the village, and for the first day, I made a survey of the whole thing, and with the help of the representatives over there, I got to know that there was a particular family in the village who was basically causing this uproar because he was the religious leader, and he was motivating the other people not to go for vaccination of the child. Now, what I did, I also got to know that there was another certain family in the village where the youngest child was not given polio vaccination because she had been suffering from gastroenteritis from the very childhood. So the other two children, they were normal, but because she was denied giving the polio vaccine, she was suffering from, the escalating physical disabilities. So what my target was, the easiest target for any health professional, and especially, for being a doctor who is very much acceptable to the community, I went into this house and I talked with the female household. Now, the female, as we know that the female household, there is always a gender, I would say, differentiation in the decision making in the house. So they were quite, accepting the fact, but the male member of the household, they were very staunch. And I asked him that what was the main cause. So he said that it was a conspiracy of, like as Heidi said, that people thought that people coming from Delhi, they were not entertained because they thought that it must be the conspiracy of the government to make it a non-Muslim country. So it was like that. So it was spreading like fire. Now, then I said that I talked with him at many occasions. So I went every day, and it was, at the first sight, he used to get very angry. But on repeated attempts, when I used to go to him, he, it changed into one of kindness and, acceptance. Now, what happened is I used to, motivate him that certain event of AFI was, which he was citing, that has actually left the child with incapacitated for life. And there were also, as Heidi said, that there were forced sterilization. So, there were certain rumors, there were certain instances that really made them to think like that. So what I did is that I told that that particular instance of AFI was not only that happened in the Muslim community, but it also happened in Hindu community. So then I went on to other religious leaders and the political leaders, and I was accepted over there, and I tried to get the theme that whether something existed in their religious beliefs, because it was getting rooted in their religious beliefs, and that was very difficult to bring out of their minds. Now then the other religious leaders, they were also confronting my questions, that they were that was not accepted by them, but somehow I tried to motivate that was not the reason. What we did is that we took the help of mass media, and we kind of brought an innovative approach. Was that okay? What we do is that we vaccinate a Hindu child as well as a Muslim child at the same time, so that they will have the understanding that no obnoxious things are happening. So it was to uproot their belief from the system. So what we did is we went ahead with this innovative thing, and we did it on the same day, and we made it think that okay, things were different. Also, the child who was suffering from paralytic polio, that father of the child, he also was kind of campaigning that because the child was not been given polio vaccine, it has suffered like that. So it is not a suffering of the child, also the family and the parents and the community. So ultimately, what happened is when they were convinced that it was not against, it was not a conspiracy against their culture, not a conspiracy against their religion, not a conspiracy to make them infertile and make them extinct. So then they were convinced. And I told the religious leader, the male household, that see, the decision making goes to your hand, basically. And if you want to see your child happy and healthy, then you must go for this polio vaccine, because the main question that lurked in their mind was that we didn't get vaccinated. Then why should our children get vaccinated? It is because of the emerging and the re-emerging diseases of the polio, of the viruses, of the different bacteria that is going around in the society, in the community, which was not prevalent before, and also our immune system. So it was more of BCC than IEC that we did, and ultimately that myth of that myth was broken. With the cohabitation, as well as communizing a Hindu child with a Muslim child. So that really made the difference, I think. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Tanushree. We are now over time. Thank you. I hope, Heidi, that you're able to stay a few minutes, because, of course, the whole point is to ask for your feedback and to share your experience and expertise in this area at the Vaccine Confidence Project at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. You heard two narratives, and I know that we could have invited you to give us an amazing 1-hour lecture on vaccine hesitancy. We chose to invite you in order to listen to a few of the more than 700 case studies that members of the COVID-19 Peer Hub have developed. So would love to hear first your specific feedback on the two stories, the final two stories that you heard, and just do you believe this? Yeah, what are your takeaways from a very small sample of a very large amount of knowledge that has been developed and peer-reviewed by members of the Peer Hub?
Great. I'll be quick because I also have to jump on my in the next meeting. But one, I just overwhelmingly congratulate you. This is a fantastic initiative, and I really look forward to learning more about the archive of 700 case studies in any way I can help think through how it can translate into useful learnings for others. Let's see. Just starting with the one with Dr. Mondal from Tanushree, I think this is fantastic. This was also a challenge in other states in southern India, this anxiety as the government becomes more pro-Hindu nationalist, minority groups get anxious and concerned. So I think this strategy of getting both sides there together, but I think this is important to already anticipate. When we do have a COVID vaccine, these learnings already have them in your archive of, coming forward with that kind of equity, cultural equity. With Borema, I think the same thing, this getting the ethnic group, the same language, the local proverbs, is all fantastic. I really don't have anything else to say, except it's been a great opportunity. It's made me even more enthusiastic about looking through the collection, and then we'll take it from there.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Heidi Larson from the Vaccine Confidence Project, for joining members of the Peer Hub and listening to their sharing of their experience. That's it for this session. So. But that's not all. This afternoon, tune in for part 3 of the mini-series on Sero surveys. But first of all, a round of applause for our presenters, for members of the Peer Hub who've worked for 6 months on top of their daily duties in order to progress against the pandemic and to connect with others in these new ways. Yesterday, we had the COVID-19 vaccine introduction workshop with Anne Lindstrand, who's actually the person at the World Health Organization, a Swedish doctor whose job is now to lead for WHO the introduction of COVID-19 vaccine across the world. Whether you are watching us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook, you can find that workshop. You can find the recording of this one if you join sort of midway. And this afternoon, in just under 2 hours, join us with the International Vaccine Access Center and Johns Hopkins School of Public Health. We have some must-see television if you're interested in sero surveys. We'll be looking. This was part 2 is already available. You'll find it on our platforms. But part 3 we're doing today again with IVAC. That's it. The Peer Hub will be reconvening in January. So Peer Hub members know what they have remaining left to do, which is to submit the final version of their case studies. Thank you so much for all of your participation, for the trust in joining us today and in sharing your experience. I'll now be rewinding the comments just so we can enjoy some of what's been said during this workshop. Thank you once again, and see you soon. Give everyone a time to read that one. Thank you, Sohini, and others who made such great comments and contributions. I'm so sorry we don't have nearly enough time to acknowledge them all. But we do this rewind at the end. Hopefully that's a little bit helpful. Thank you to members of the Peer Hub and to all those of you who joined from across the world, across the different platforms. And see you soon. And get ready if you work in immunization. We know what is ahead of us after a very challenging year. Thank you and goodbye.